All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope you guys have had a good day. Got an exciting session for you guys here. Little fireside chat. The topic is 2022 retail trends that will influence your holiday cross-channel strategies with one of our partners with Simon Data. So please give a round of applause to Chris Mobieni, VP of Marketing at Simon Data, and Kate Hewitt, CMO of Bombas.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks, everyone, for joining in person and also virtually online. Super excited to be here and super excited to be joined by the brilliant Kate Hewitt from Bombas. Kate, how are you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Pretty good. Happy it stopped raining, honestly.
Finally, after a week. This is your first time in the last kind of 2 years being back in person, right?
That's right. First in-person event.
Kind of weird.
COVID. Yeah.
Getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah, it's nice.
Well, really happy to have you. And as the title, which is a little bit of a mouthful, goes, we wanted to, kind of appeal to everyone who is probably neck deep in holiday campaign planning, getting all their strategies in place, getting all the tactical work in place, building out all the different campaigns, and trying to make it as successful as possible. And so we wanted to share some insights that we got from a recent research report that we did, and also share some wisdom from Kate with things that have just been really effective at Bombas, not just around the holidays, but throughout the year. So before we dive into that, maybe we set the stage a little bit. It feels like yesterday that Bombas was sort of that like scrappy, disruptive D2C startup that was taking the world by storm. But you guys have grown immensely, and I've kind of been around for a while now. Like, how has your, use of data and using that to power personalization, kind of how's that changed from the early days and as you've matured on?
Yeah. I mean, probably the most fun thing for me as a marketer is that we just have a lot more data, a lot faster. So a test that used to take us 3 months to run now takes us days or weeks.
Right.
So that's been really, really fun, and we're able to go, as part of that, deeper into specific segments. So it used to be, for our entire audience, does A or B perform better? And now we're able to drill a little bit more into, okay, for customers who bought this in their first order, or for customers from this geography. So we're just able to learn a lot more at a much more granular level, a lot faster.
And so how do you prioritize and guide, the direction you go as you're getting more granular in those segments? Like, you can go, you get a ton more data, and it's super exciting because there's a bunch of different ways that you can slice and dice it, but it can almost be like choice paralysis at that point.
Yeah.
How do you choose what you test into and how you want to segment?
Yeah. I think probably the biggest thing that we look for is how actionable is it. So even if we saw, for example, a big difference based on based on geography and what customers were purchasing, depending on the channel, that may or may not be actionable. TV, for example, we buy on a national remnant basis. OTT, though, has more ability to target, but it's really expensive. Is there enough of a difference in behavior by geography to make that actionable? And so that's the lens that we put everything through, and we have a sense for, all right, is this something that is a differentiator that we'd be able to action on across different acquisition channels, different retention channels, and our site?
Yeah. And really that first party data is your differentiator when it comes to personalization, right? Is that solely the type of customer data that you're using to power these campaigns, or is there anything else that you guys have been looking at with like enrichment or anything like that?
Yeah, so I'd say for the most part, we're relying on first party data. We've started to experiment with some third party data, but we're too early for me to be able to say that it's been impactful or not.
And have the recent privacy changes kind of influenced that a little bit or impacted it at all?
I would say so. I would say the privacy changes accelerated our desire to have first-party data in a more structured way, and also to start looking at more proactively collecting zero-party data, and accelerated our desire to say, all right, what third-party data are we able to get that will enrich
the
data that we already have?
I think zero-party data has definitely been, one of the topics of the year for sure. I think we kick off the year, I think, with the big e-tail shop talk events, and since then, I think it's been the topic of at least one, if not more, keynote presentations. Talk me through, like, is zero-party data, I think, also a more recent focus for Bombas, or is that something you guys have been thinking about for a while?
Yeah, so it's very much a more recent focus. I think it goes hand in hand with we're very actively, because of the privacy changes that have been moving, very actively focused on how do we get more of our customers to be logged in while they're shopping,
Right.
And how do we start to collect much richer data.
Yeah. No, it was an interesting stat that came out of that study that we did. We had a more general question kind of around zero-party data, and a majority of consumers, 57%, were saying, hey, if, that allows me to have a better experience while I'm shopping. I'm happy to provide that information.
Yep.
And the Mother's Day campaign that you guys did, kind of shifting into more of a holiday lens now,
Yeah.
that Mother's Day campaign that you guys did earlier this year had a lot of shades of zero-party data collection.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So we sent an email basically to customers asking, tell us about your mom. And then we sent a follow-up email that was targeted. So, for example, so you said your mom's an athlete, and powered it with specific recommendations based on the information that they had provided. We really saw that as a test case for, are we going to see a change in engagement if customers have provided zero-party data?
Right. And what do you recall kind of the performance lift? It was something like 81% over generic emails.
Yeah, the conversion rate lift was pretty impactful. Probably one of the more interesting things, and this is where I'm excited to start testing into this world a lot more, is we saw a really wide range of performance of the follow-up email. So I think we gave people 6 options, and the best performing version was like 3 times better than the worst performing version, and there was quite a lot of variance between the 6 versions, which was counterintuitive to us, because we thought, all right, if somebody has opted into this communication and said, all right, yes, my mom is an athlete, or whatever the other descriptor they chose was, I would have expected much more uniform performance from the follow-up emails, because part of the signal you're getting in capturing zero-party data is the actual information, my mom's an athlete, but actually another really important piece of it is you get information about how engaged that customer is, and I would have expected that to be much more of a factor
That's super interesting.
in performance than it was.
Yeah. Did you guys have any hypotheses around that?
I mean, I think some of it, I believe, had to do with the descriptors. Some descriptors we had a much better set of products for than others. So athlete, we have phenomenal performance socks. So that one was one of the stronger performers. And then one that was a bit of a surprise to us was, I forget the exact wording, but it basically was like, my mom really likes premium items. So it was obviously better customer-facing language than that.
Sure.
And that was a top performer. That was actually the single best performer, and we think that has to do a little bit with our brand positioning as being more of a premium product.
Yeah. And related to not just the revenue and performance impact of these kinds of campaigns, but also the brand impact. Holidays like Mother's Day and Father's Day obviously can be kind of sensitive for certain people in your customer list.
Yep.
Is that something you guys take into consideration when you're planning, and how do you account for that?
Yeah, a little bit. So I would say we are not among the brands that sent please opt out of these communications if it's too sensitive, mostly because we were doing a more general migration of our preference center around the time these holidays happened. For next year, we will have the option built into our preference center to be opted out of Mother's Day or Father's Day or both. The other thing that we do is, in our targeting, one of the biggest things we look at is, did this person buy Mother's or Father's Day gifts last year? And that's something we take as a pretty strong signal.
Sure. Yeah. So shifting into the elephant in the room, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I actually was anyone at the party last night? Anyone who's here in person? Yeah, a few of you guys. So for anyone who's online or wasn't able to make it, there was a advice columnist who was there. You could use a typewriter to ask them a question and get some advice. And I thought it'd be a good opportunity to get their input beyond just Kate and myself around what some brands and retailers can do. So I asked, a very, I think, general knowledge question, which was, how can brands capitalize on omni-channel opportunities this holiday season? I'm sure she gets that one a lot. But she actually gave some really good advice. She said, aim for the middle, was her response. And how she explained that was, she danced. Yeah, she did an interpretive dance before actually explicitly telling you what the answer was. But the way she explained it was, keep it simple, don't get too crazy, don't try and be first, and just stick to the basics. Which I actually thought was surprisingly relevant and useful advice.
Yeah.
I think, is that kind of how you guys approach when you're doing your holiday planning, or?
Funny enough it is, and it's great that she channeled that for you. So we actually had an experience, I want to say it was 2020 or 2021, I think it was 2020. We tried to do during holiday personalized email sends where we basically, so we have 3,500 giving partners that we work with across the country through whom we've donated over 75 million items to date to those in need. So most of our customers live actually pretty close to one of our donation partners, and so we had this idea that based on the zip code of the billing zip code of the customer and the zip code of our giving partner, we would basically be able to send customers a featured giving partner in their area as part of our Giving Tuesday effort. And it basically broke the ESP that we were using
Worst nightmare.
at the time, which makes sense. We were trying to send a reasonably personalized email to a pretty large customer file. And that was a great learning experience for us because we were smaller then than we are today. But during holiday, we definitely put a focus on keeping things simple because at the scale you're operating at for holiday in our space, there's just a lot of opportunity for stuff to break, and so you kind of want to have as few moving pieces as possible while still giving a good customer experience. So that's how we think about holiday.
Sure. So what are some of the things that you do differently? I think everyone obviously is really activating the retention channels that they have.
Yep.
The inbox is a war zone. Now I think SMS inboxes are kind of starting to trend the same way. Like how do you guys stand out?
Yeah. So a couple things that we change, obviously our cadence increases like most other folks. We try to keep the brand piece really central. Our mission is something that we talk about year round, and it would be easy, I think, in holiday for that to really dial down, but we, especially in holiday, it's like every email counts, right? That's a revenue opportunity cost, but we really do keep the mission central through the entire period. So that's one differentiating factor. We also we've played a lot with our promotional calendar over time and really moved to, we used to have basically one big block. And what we found was from a messaging perspective, obviously, if you have the same offer for a long period of time, there's not much urgency. And you're kind of hitting the same kind of customer because the offer is the same and the timing is the same. And so over time, our promotional calendar is really stretched out pretty considerably, and we've
Cyber Month, not Cyber Week anymore.
It's definitely Cyber Month, not Cyber Week. We've actually reduced the total number of promotional days. We've just spread it out, and we've done it with a lot more intentionality around. Okay, we see for this part of our customer base, they're really shopping around this period. For this part of our customer base, they're really shopping, in this other time period, and we've really tried to do more targeted promotions versus trying to blanket.
Yeah. And I know a lot of, I guess, in the interest of simplicity, a lot of brands will obviously go with the approach of, hey, the site-wide sale, everything's X% off.
Yep.
And some people try and game it and say, well, maybe we have certain offers for certain categories or, segment out by product. What approach do you guys take? And have you guys tested being a little bit, more I guess segmented, for lack of a better word, in your promotions, or do you keep it simple there too?
So we keep that pretty simple as well. We've tended towards, so we focus on simplicity, and that simplicity of message to the customer, because we've found that the more complex a promotional message we try to send, the less uptake there is, and we've seen that not only with holiday promotions, but with new customer offers, right? If you have 20% off your first order or 20% off your first order with 4 pairs or more, you're just going to see less uptake on the more, anything that has conditions around it. So we do keep our offers pretty simple. We've tended towards percent off as the primary mechanism. Last year we were like, all right, we're going to try a dollar off promotion because we had from a previous holiday, actually another example of sort of personalization failing at scale with the same ESP who we were no longer working with. We ran an A/B test, and the winner was supposed to deploy, and it deployed not the winner. But the winner in the early testing had actually been a dollar off promotion. So the next year we were like, all right, cool, we're gonna, try that as one of our promotional activities, and we did it. And within like 20, honestly, probably like 12 hours of launching it, we were like, we are tracking nowhere close to what we need to be seeing for this promotional period, and we ended up taking it down, redoing all of the comms and the site experience to flip it to a site-wide percent off. And then basically immediately saw things take off again.
So one interesting stat that came out of our report that I was a little bit surprised by was that 73% of consumers that had said they were planning on shopping with a new brand or discovering a new brand during the holidays actually expected to continue shopping with that brand throughout the rest of the year. And I feel like there's this assumption or belief that, the customers that you're acquiring during heavy promotional periods are kind of lower LTV, lower quality. Kind of curious what your take is. Does that kind of go against what you would have expected, or have you actually seen sale customers have that LTV that you're looking for?
Yeah. So it's a really good question. We've actually seen our holiday cohorts are some of our best performing.
Wow.
For a long time, our holiday promotion was basically the same as our standard new customer offer, which was 20% off. So for a new customer, there actually wasn't a big difference in terms of the initial percent off, and so I think that was probably a driver of the behavior being broadly the same.
Right.
I will say that we did offer a deeper discount for the first time last year. We went to 25% for some of our days, and we didn't really see a markedly different behavior for those customers. We actually see a lot more variance based on what people buy. So there are certain products or product subcategories where if someone buys that in holiday, their LTV is higher or lower than other categories.
Right.
And that difference is exacerbated in holiday.
Right.
I think if we were a significantly more promotional brand, I think if you're half off, then you're starting to get into a really different territory of value-seeking customer versus if you're at 20 or even 25%.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. I guess for Bombas, do you see the holidays as more of, an acquisition period or retention period?
Honestly, both. Our business is a pretty even split at the moment, and we basically see that also during holiday. I think the bigger thing that's different between new and repeat is where the bulk of the buying happens. So we do see our repeat customer, like if you look at cumulative revenue through the holiday period, repeat it builds much faster earlier, but then levels out as you get deeper into December, whereas new customers sort of are slower build and then really ramp through December. So it's a little bit of a different buying behavior.
Yeah.
But it's really both.
Interesting. One topic of conversation that came up during the roundtable I had earlier was around customers who are buying for themselves and customers who are gifting.
Yeah.
How do you guys track and kind of categorize customers as a gifter versus buying product for themselves? How do you market to them differently? Talk through that a little bit.
This is a question we've been working on for quite some time. So we have a couple different data points that we triangulate to try to understand if somebody is a gifter. Those together represent like 20% of our customer base, but then when we look at our insights data, we see it's basically 50-50, people self-gifting, sort of buying for themselves and gifting for other people. And so the bigger lever is a little bit less, all right, this person displayed these signals that show they are like definitively a gifting buyer, and we focus much more on having a good balance of merchandise in our ads, in our emails. So self-gifting tends to be a little bit more skewed to, black ankle socks. Our Tri Blocks, which are a perennial bestseller, gifting tends to skew a little bit more towards gift boxes or merino wool, things that are either a little bit more expensive or a little bit more seasonal.
Right.
And so the balance of products that we're featuring has actually been probably a bigger lever than difference in messaging or difference in promotional.
Right.
efforts.
Right. For when it comes to remarketing and abandonment during these periods, cadence, like you mentioned, feels like getting a little bit more aggressive or shorter in the cadence or the wait period.
Yeah.
Probably something that changes, but is there anything else in terms of abandoning traffic and remarketers that you guys do a little bit differently during the holidays?
I would say the biggest thing that we do is just making sure that people are really aware of whatever promotions they're eligible for, even though it's plastered all over our site, and in our email, and in a SMS, and in our ads. People abandon, and we tested including dynamic banners that essentially show the customer the best offer that they are eligible for, whether that's our holiday sale, new customer promotional offer, free shipping, whichever one sort of is top ranked for them. Just including that versus a base case has probably been the single biggest needle mover. And then the obvious thing of actually like showing the items in cart we found had an unsurprisingly massive difference. And then around holiday, sometimes also the shipping banner, calling out deadlines depending on how close you are to that deadline.
Right. So kind of shifting more, I guess, broadly and strategically, the last few holidays have certainly been atypical, to say the least. But I think also this year now we have, obviously the privacy changes that we kind of talked about, challenges with rising acquisition costs also being then exacerbated by market conditions, supply chain challenges. Is there anything that I guess is unique in your 2022 planning with like all of those things being considered, that isn't just, hey, like how do we optimize from what we did last year, and more like how do we account for these rapidly shifting and changing trends?
Yeah. So I think a couple things. We see it as an opportunity because we're not a super promotional brand. We have to demonstrate value in another way, and I think we're more conscious than we've probably ever been around customers looking for value, and so we're pushing really hard behind our mission, which is kind of at the heart of everything we do, and also helps explain sort of why we're a premium price point brand. So that's one thing that we're really focused on. We did also in the terrain of value seeking. We are opening our early access sale, which had traditionally been gated just to repeat customers. We'll open that to new customers this year and try to use that as an acquisition tool, even though it's significantly earlier in the period than we typically see pick up
Sure.
from new customers. So we're really focused around, how do we show value through mission? How do we actually give value through better promotion? And then we're also thinking quite a lot about in our communication on site, through CRM, through ads, how do we really showcase the value of the product and the premium nature of it, so that people really understand like this is actually a really nice gift. It's not the same thing as giving somebody a 6-pack of socks that you bought at
Sure.
Walmart.
Right.
So those are a couple of the things that we're focused on. We've always had a pretty nimble approach to the holidays where we have a plan, but as we talked about with the example of pivoting our promotion last moment, we definitely have a culture of watching the numbers and really being able to adjust channel mix, creative, promotions, timing of different activities really dynamically in period.
Right. Another interesting outcome that we had from the research that we did was there was a question that asked consumers about the different types of marketing messaging they can receive and the channels that they like receiving that messaging on. And for example, one that I thought was really interesting was for SMS, I think the top 3 types of marketing messages were back in stock, low in stock, shipping updates, and kind of customer service support.
Yep.
And I know SMS is something that you guys are still scaling up.
Yep.
But I guess like in general, is a channel's role, I guess, in the funnel or in that customer journey something that you're taking into consideration? Maybe during the holidays, but maybe even more broadly, in terms of, hey, like, what kind of message do I, target someone on Facebook with versus, follow up with the remarketing email versus, send an SMS. How do you guys think through that?
Yeah, definitely. And I would say this is a place where Simon's been particularly valuable for us, but, being able to understand which channel a customer, so there's two pieces. There's one, what type of message is it? And then there's, secondly, the component of which customers are more responsive to which channels, right? And so, there are places where SMS feels less appropriate, like an email talking about, like, I don't know, pack discounts, for example, which are an always-on discount for us, where if you buy more, you save more. It feels less relevant for SMS. It's an always-on promotion. SMS we really think of as things that are timely, which is sort of more what you just described. Email also has timely things, but also stuff that's significantly more evergreen. And then depending on responsiveness in those channels, we'll also filter through to other, Facebook primarily as sort of an additional, or other remarketing channels as an additional way to get the message out.
Yeah, I feel like that has been a really interesting shift with like email's role more recently, especially like I guess with like the dawn of the promotions tab. It very much has become a discovery platform in a way. Like you get into the mode where, okay, I want to go shopping, like let's go through my promotions tab and see like what's available, what new sales are out there, any of the brands I like have any new product launches or anything like that. Whereas, email or SMS, certainly it's a more intimate channel, and that immediacy I think is really important. I do want to leave some time for Q&A. I guess like last kind of softball question before we kick that off. Are there any brands that you really admire for what they do during their holiday? And if maybe that's too specific, we can go broadly. But who do you look for inspiration?
I would love to say it's like one or two people, but the reality is I'm looking at as much as I possibly can,
right?
To just kind of get a read, because like different lessons come from different people, right? Like I think Fellow is an example of a D2C brand that I think has like really beautiful photography that they send through on SMS. And then there's other brands, like I think Lululemon does a really great job with like site merchandising around the holidays. So I think different companies have different strengths, and for me, probably the most fun part of holiday is being able to look at, a really broad cross-section of brands and see what they're doing well and sort of what we can learn from.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. So any questions from the audience? Yeah.
We're in the process of like an RFP for a new ESP, so I have to ask, who did you have?
They no longer exist.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Thank you.
My name is Sierra. I'm Director of CRM and Loyalty at Beauty Counter. So also very mission focused. I have a few questions, but I'll give you one at a time. You talked about gifters, looking at gifters versus who are gifter versus giftee. What are some of the data points that you look at to identify those gifters? Like, is there anything that comes to mind, like from a customer behavior perspective? Yeah.
So there's really three or four. So we look at shipping billing mismatch, which was, I would say, a better indicator before COVID, when people started moving around a lot. We have the option to add a gift message at checkout, so we look for people who've selected that box. And then we have a pretty robust offering of gift boxes, which are specifically merchandised, beautiful packaging and like product pre-selected. So people that have bought that. And then a significantly less powerful but obviously higher volume signal is people who are really active browsers of gifts for her, gifts for him, gifts for kids pages. Those are our four sort of best data points.
In looking at your holiday strategy, you mentioned quite a bit about being promotional.
Yeah.
My name's Kia Brinkley. I head marketing for a brand called Thread Beauty, which is owned by another company called The Lip Bar.
Okay.
But we're actually an $8 price point makeup brand. And so there's very little room. Like, even if I give you 20% off, you're really like, wait, that's like 60 cents. And so in that world, are you finding that your most successful campaigns or SMS and email are always related to some type of promo, or have you had success in similar campaigns that don't build themselves on top of a promo?
Yeah. So I would say in holiday, we see, I'll sort of give you two answers. So we think about CRM generally with a bit more of a portfolio approach. So we're looking a little bit less at like, how did this email stack up against this email? Because like a promotional email is pretty much always going to win against a non-promotional email, at least in our experience. However, from a brand perspective, we don't want to be a brand that is only sending promotional activity through the entire period. And so we really take a look at, all right, through the holiday period, we're going to send however many emails we want, 15% to be related to our mission. We want 15% to be related to new products. We want 15% to be like deep dives on specific product features that sort of help define our key value proposition. And so we kind of work through it that way, and we don't look at, we obviously are looking at the performance of every communication, but we try to sort of think through what's a customer going to experience across this time period, and do we have a good sort of mix of things that will appeal to what different types of customers are looking for.
Hi, my name's Joe Ammon. I'm founder and CEO of Clove. We do sneakers for healthcare professionals. Real quick question on your how you treat your strategy during the holidays. So we're in our third year, but we feel like we're in our teen years. Like we kind of know what we're doing. We have acne, but we'll tell our parents, what we want to do.
Yep.
And so like we have a pretty strong strategy going in, but I'm curious, how flexible, even at your size, are you with timing, promotional level, in strategy? Are you making late game calls and like heading into Black Friday? Just curious.
Yeah. So this is a constant source of internal debate. Part of the benefit of being an online-only brand or a predominantly online brand is that we have that nimbleness, and so to not use that ability just seems like a missed opportunity. But obviously, operationally, if you change a promotion or you change, anything meaningful about your strategy, it's got to flow through the site merge team. It's got to flow through the CRM team. It's got to it has a lot of repercussions. And so something that we've done that's been really helpful is we've basically talked through. We have basically a map for by team in the company. If something changes on a couple different sort of, we identify what are the things that we want the flexibility around, and we talk to each of the various operational teams and say, hey, if we were going to change X in our approach, how much lead time would you ideally need, and what is your absolute drop dead, like where you could do this? And so we have a really good sense of, all right, if we wanted to change the promotional amount or we wanted to extend it by a day, actually our limiting factor is this team, and here's kind of the last moment we can make that call. So that's kind of how we push it to the last minute. But we have a plan obviously much further in advance, and something that we've really worked to improve over the last several years is starting to clarify earlier on, all right, what are the parameters under which we would change what we're doing, so that we're not saying like, all right, if we're missing revenue by 0.1%, we're going to like extend our promotion by 3 days. So we have really clear or increasingly clear guardrails around in which situations we would or would not adjust the plan, and that's helped mitigate some of the operational friction, because people are like, all right, I know if we're doing this, it's because there's actually like a significant enough hurdle that this is going to have a material business impact.
I feel like you've been waiting.
Hi, my name's Lisa, and I work at Spanx. I have a question for both of you. Kate, you were talking earlier about cross-sell. How does Simon Data help surface cross-sell insights that you can then act on?
Yeah. So cross-sell is actually not currently a massive effort for us. We're in the midst of a sort of reasonably long-term, almost complete project, which is basically an overhaul of our underlying product data. That has been a pretty meaningful blocker for us on really effective cross-sell, upsell, and product-related personalization. We have some ability to do that, but it's, we're able to do it on a small handful of data points, and when this project is complete, we'll have significantly more data points to be able to better relate products under the hood. But I can let you speak to how other clients do that.
The same question for both of us?
Yeah, just how within like this unrelated tool, how you can help marketers surface those cross-sell insights without a marketer necessarily having to dig deep into the data to find it.
Yeah, so there's kind of two paths. They're both AI paths. One's actual intelligence, the other's artificial intelligence. So if you want to go into and really dig into the data and see, all right, what is the common path for someone who buys product A to ultimately go and buy product B, we make those insights very easy to get. We also have a tool that we call Simon Predict that are a few out-of-the-box propensity models around purchase propensity, category affinity, and things like that, that can eliminate a lot of that manual process. And we also have a lot of clients who have kind of, who are a little bit more sophisticated, have their own homegrown machine learning algorithms and things that they've developed, propensity models that they're able to feed into Simon as well on the execution side and with the personalization.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, my name is Corey. I'm with UpWest, which is owned by Express. But one of our big brand values at UpWest is around like comfort for good for people and planet. And we talk a lot about that on email, and I've had like huge success with that, like super high engagement. I'm just curious how you guys talk about your mission on SMS and like how successful that's been.
I just want to make sure I heard the question clearly. How we think about our mission on SMS?
Yeah, like how do you communicate that with customers? Like it's
Yeah.
been super successful for us on email, but we haven't been able to figure that out on SMS.
So SMS is still a pretty new channel for us. To date, we've really focused it primarily around new collection launches, and then we didn't have it in place for holiday last year, but we plan to have it in holiday this year. It'll be a little bit more focused on promotion. Definitely we'll have something around Giving Tuesday in our mission, but it's because it's such an immediate channel, I think with the exception of very few mission moments, like when we hit a major giving milestone, I think that's a moment to do it, but it's something we've, to be honest, not really explored that much yet, and that we probably will more after holiday. I think during holiday, sort of in the lead up to holiday, definitely don't want to be accidentally driving unsubscribes.